So this week's guest, Mr. Jonathan Jones, is the Millennial Motivator, and he's an author and a speaker. Jonathan, thanks for joining me.
Oh, my man, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, I love that message that you got right there. Speak your success. So let's just dive right into that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so speaking our success, to me really means just having the ability and the power with our words to first put out into the world, into the universe, what we desire to achieve. And then, just like you said, after speaking our success, then I believe that we believe in our greatness. So after we vocalize a thing or a goal or a vision so often, then we become crazy enough and then we start to believe it. And then when we believe it, then the way I always finish out my show, I say, speak your success, believe in your greatness, and create the life and business of your dreams. That's when you take the action. That's when you apply those tangible strategies. And then that way you yield your success. So that's really what it means to me. And that's really the purpose that the phrase really serves for.
Gotcha, man. And yeah, I'm totally on board with that. As somebody who also wrote a book, one of my key principles is the same as what you just mentioned. It's taking that belief, and then we can have all the belief in the world, but unless we apply it and we put it into action, nothing's going to happen. So we have to implement.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. So when I was preparing to have this conversation with you today, I watched your TEDx for TEDx Kids at SMU. And so I'm curious, man, after watching that, for the people who haven't seen it yet, how did you go from the fireman, the hockey player, and then developed into the person you are today?
I think it's just like the title of my book, which is Process. Because when I was younger, just being a fireman, because it just seemed cool. You know, that was one of those things. I used to watch different shows on TV, and being a fireman seemed cool. They slide down the pole and then have the cool fire truck. So that was really cool. Then I got a little bit older, and then I was exposed to the Mighty Ducks, right? You might be familiar with the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In that movie, you know, Charlie Conway and Fulton and all these other actors, I was like, oh my goodness, I think I want to be a hockey player now because it seems cool and it just made sense at that time. But then ultimately, as I just continued to go through life and then more experiences, I was having more experiences, and then different people were impacting my life. And then I was hit with the challenge when I was working at a retail store, and my boss said, Jonathan, your attitude sucks.
Oh, man.
Whoa, that's some strong choice. Those are very strong words.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if you can say that, because that's, you know, that was one of those things. Was like, you can't say that to me, even though I know I say worse around the store, but you can't say that to me. Mm-hmm. And then when she impacted my life in that way, her name was Marlene. She was my manager. That was what challenged me to self-reflect. That was what challenged me to be more optimistic. And then from that point, that was when the book came. And then that was when the speaking came, to share my story, to share my voice, and to move my message to ultimately impact others' lives to do the same thing. So I realized that hockey was cool, but I don't think hockey would have given me the same level of fulfillment that speaking and empowering others does.
And not all of us can shoot the knuckle puck, right? Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely, man. So kind of diving into that a little bit, tell me about the timeline, because I saw back in like 2014, I believe, you had this campaign where it was no complaining. Mm-hmm. Was that before the book, or was that during the same time period? And how did that come about?
Yeah, so actually the No Complain campaign actually came about by that manager. Her name was Marlene, and Marlene was the one who told me I complained a lot. She told me my attitude was negative, And then that was ultimately what I was going to name my book. The book was going to be entitled The No Complain Campaign. But then we realized that the No Complain Campaign might be a little unclear for people what the message is and what the goal is. So then we decided to go with process. But ultimately, that was what started the movement, because the No Complain Campaign was ultimately a social media movement, social media push. And then it ultimately got translated to a book. So now there's part of that story within the book. But it's other strategies, other life lessons, other tangible steps that I learned by way of bosses, CEOs, as well as my parents, for sure.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. So what's like reflecting back on that now, what's like a key takeaway you got from creating that campaign?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest key takeaways from that would be, man, that at the end of the day, whatever we have to complain about, don't be so quick to put that out there into the world, because no matter how tough your life is, no matter what your struggle might be, there are other people out here. If we were to lay our problems out like a deck of cards, there are some people who would be quick to pick their problems back up, because other people are dealing with and facing trials and tribulations that might be so much more intense than ours. So we have to be careful. We have to be very careful when it comes to complaining, because one, Nathan, you know, like I know, when you complain, nobody really cares. Because you complain like, oh, I'm having the worst day ever. It's like, okay, my day's fine. So I don't know why you're complaining about it. I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's just understanding that, and just understanding that we always have a choice. We can choose to be positive, or we can choose to complain. So just breaking that down and helping people understand, make the right decision. Just make the right decision. It's your life, so live it to the fullest. Don't complain, and just max it out.
And I like that analogy of the cards, right? Because if we laid out our cards on the table, you would realize that you might have a way better hand than you realize when you're seeing somebody else's. And I think it also, that analogy leads to, we only get one hand. So we've got to be able to play it to the best of our ability, no matter what it is.
Definitely.
Man, so the book, the process, is all these strategies, right? And it's geared towards millennials. So what are, what do you think the sneaky number one thing is about a strategy that might not be the sexy one, but it's the one that creates a lot of change?
I think the sneakiest one would be the way I start off the book, and it's be thankful, because I think just the way the culture's going, the way our lives are, we're hit with so many messages. We watch TV, we listen to podcasts, and all these other things. So that causes us to want so much more than oftentimes than we need. But when we come to a place of gratitude and we're able to stop and reflect on all the things we have, all the relationships we have, all the people who have positively influenced our life, then we're put in a place to where we're like, wow, if this person impacted me in that way, how can I do the same for somebody else? So I think when we get to a place to be thankful, that forces us to want to show gratitude to someone else. So I would say that's one of the biggest ones. And I think that also helps you appreciate people a little bit more, because there are times where I would just sit and reflect and just think, wow, this person has meant this much to me, or this person has helped me here or helped me there. And a lot of times those people have come back later and told me that I didn't help you so that you would do something for me. I came and helped you so that you would just continue to be selfless and continue to help others see that same message that you've been able to obtain.
Yeah, that's powerful. Relationships in our lives are so important. Relationships and the words we choose to use, man, two very important things that I think you touching on that and what you do, speaking your message into the world, just proves that. So I've got a lot of entrepreneurs and students who connect with the No Label Defines Me movement, and I'm curious if there's somebody out there, either student or entrepreneur, who's they know they've got a message inside of them, but they haven't quite come to grips that they want to share it.
Okay.
They feel it, but they're like, I don't know. Nobody's going to connect to it. What piece of advice would you have for them?
I mean, I think that there's always somebody in an audience or somebody in our friend group or somebody in our circle that our message directly resonates with. And even if it doesn't, there's a piece where there's some overlap and where there's some similarity. Just ultimately in speaking and connecting with other people, like we see that. But I think sometimes we have to get over that fear piece, because fear is something that ultimately holds us back from experiencing life at a very high level. And then when we allow our fear to basically trump our faith or what our beliefs are, then that's when we stay stagnant. Mm-hmm. But the individual who is debating if they should share their story or if they shouldn't, what's the worst that can happen? You can share your story, and then somebody might laugh at you. Let's say you share your story, somebody laughs at you. Then you have to ask the person who laughs, well, if you're laughing at me for sharing my story, why haven't you shared yours? And then that creates a call to action. And then by creating that call to action, then it creates that cycle of individuals sharing their story, pushing their message, because we all have our own individual purposes. We all have our own reasons why we wake up and why we're so driven to do what we do. Just like you're driven to do your podcast, The No Labels. Like there are so many reasons that we all have that purpose. But the more we share our story, that allows us to connect with our tribe. The more we connect with our tribe, we build that confidence. And then that encourages us to go forward, lock arms with those people, and then do the work that's required of us.
So you go out and you speak to people all over, and I know they leave and they're motivated by what you share, your story, because seeing you on social media, you're a very good storyteller. But my question is, what's something that you've learned from somebody who came to see you speak, and then they shared something with you and you were like, holy crap, that changed my perspective on what I just talked about today?
So at one, I was an individual when I presented that I have a lot of E.T. the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas, and his style is more so, I don't want to say aggressive, but he has a stronger style. When you hear a motivational speaker, you think of him, right? And one time somebody let me know, they said, well, you don't want to necessarily talk to people as if you're talking down to them.
Yeah.
And from that particular engagement and from that conversation and exchange we had, I had to go back to the drawing board, because I was trying to be E.T., but I'm Jonathan Jones. I can't be E.T. because that's not who I am. So by doing that, that's why now when you see my presentations, it's more of a story. It's more of a conversation, because I want the audience, just like you said, I want them to learn something, but I want to learn something when I leave as well. I don't want the audience to think that this is them coming to see me tell them what they need to change. No. This is me having conversation with you so that we all can grow. I don't know it all. They don't know it all. Yeah. But there might be an experience, or there might be a step that I can share that might help them benefit. And then likewise. So that would have to be my answer there, is understanding that nobody has completely arrived. So don't even think that.
Yeah, and if you think that, you're falling behind.
You're done. If you think that, right, the moment you think you've made it, that's the same moment that you fail. That's it.
Oh man, so I love that you told that story, and I can relate to thinking that about E.T. as well. Here's what I think. I'm like, man, he's got such a good message, but I feel like he's yelling at me all the time. And it really, here's what I learned, because I went to the Summit of Greatness, which is an event that he spoke at last year. And I was like, that's what it is. I realized for myself that I connected more in person than I do on videos, because it applied to the bigger arenas, I think, for him to project his voice more than on social media. But I love the idea of connecting and having a conversation. I would say if I'm speaking, that's what I'm attempting to do as well in my own way.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
So as we're halfway through this year, what's got you excited for the remainder of 2019?
Yeah, so I'm just really excited about always, of course, the opportunities to partner with new institutions, as well as some of the institutions that I've worked with previously, and we're working together again. But even outside of that, I'm really looking forward to traveling a little bit more, because I haven't really traveled outside of to speak. So just some leisure travel, taking time to actually do nothing, taking time to relax, because that's a challenge for me. I did a podcast episode about that, because I don't really take time to relax. I always feel like I'm on a hamster wheel, and I always feel like I'm behind. Because some people might say, John, but I see you as successful. But I see myself as somebody who needs to do more work. So therefore, traveling is an area I'm looking forward to doing more of. And also just, connecting with more people, just seeing how I can serve and support more people, because now I'm helping other individuals share their story, coaching people, or through speaking, training, and different things like that. So that's what I'm most excited about. But travel is going to be a big one for me for the final 6 months for sure.
Okay, so with that, do you have any specific place you're looking forward to go?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go to, I can't remember where it is. It's Italy. I'm getting ready to go to Italy for a wedding in a couple of months. And outside of that, where else? I'm going to Arkansas for a speaking engagement, and Atlanta. Probably going to Atlanta again here really shortly.
Okay.
But those are some of the places that I know of right now. I might be missing some, but those are, and Kansas City. But yeah,
Italy sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it'll be my first time. I've heard a lot about it, haven't gone ever, so this will be a good trip for me to go abroad to a wedding, so out hanging out with some cool people, and gonna taste some different cuisine from across the globe. So that's gonna be good. That's gonna be really good.
And then always keep in mind that you're there to relax, right? Relax and not work.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to play that in my head. I'm gonna hear you in the back of my head, Nathan. Just relax and not work.
Man. Or look up. I don't know if you're a football fan, but look up the video of Aaron Rodgers where he just spells out "relax" all the time.
Oh man, yeah, I am a football fan. My team would be the Saints. They should have won the Super Bowl this year, but they weren't in it. However, I'll have to implement that Aaron Rodgers strategy.
Relax. Yeah, man. There you go. Relax. This is awesome, man. So as I'm thinking about everything that I know you're up to, I know that you also, so you do the speaking and all that stuff, but you also have a podcast, and I'm curious, what's been a theme that's shown up during your interviews with the people you've had on your show?
Faith has been one of the biggest ones, because I've interviewed numerous entrepreneurs. I didn't realize the majority of the people I've interviewed are entrepreneurs in some shape or form, but they've all spoke to the point of faith. The best interviews I've had, it's somewhere around there revolves around faith. And I think entrepreneurship is a faith-driven mission, pursuit, goal. Because those days when you have those dark days and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get the next speaking engagement, or how you're going to sell a shirt, or how you're going to sell a book, or where are these things going to come from, and the bills for the month are due. As you're trying to hone in on that, then it's just to the point of, I just have to, it's above me. Like, you just have to say it's above me. And then you just have to move on, because like that's really what it comes down to with faith, because you can't explain it. You can't make it make sense, but you have to trust it. So that's probably one of the biggest things, faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with, you just got to trust that your mission is bigger than you.
Definitely.
And something's going to show up when it needs to show up to make the mission move in the way that it needs to. But honing in on that a little bit, I'm curious, what have you learned as far as, like you mentioned, speaking engagements?
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to communicate with the people who have booked you to speak, to kind of share your message and have them be like, yeah, I need this guy to come talk to my audience?
Yeah, well, a lot of people, you'll be amazed at who you can find through Instagram, and how you can find people through the internet. And then it's just all about building relationships by way of making, because the engagement that I'm doing in Arkansas, I picked up the phone one day, I found the gentleman's number on Google, or I was on Facebook, because I particularly work with colleges, and then I made a call. And then after we just created some chemistry, we were on the phone an hour later. And then just talking, is like, Jonathan, yeah, I feel like what you're saying, and I feel like your message would resonate with our students. So I think it would make sense. So then we went through that process. But Google and Instagram are amazing resources to connect with individuals. It's unreal how easily you can connect with somebody. But once you get somebody on the phone, the question is just then, how can you create that relationship without seeming like a selfish individual, that you're trying to go somewhere and get people to pay you for you to share your message, as opposed to getting on the phone and showing people that you're looking to truly serve and support their audience. That's the biggest piece.
Yeah. Show up and figure out how to build that trust and bring the value or the results even before you book anything with anybody, sounds like what I'm hearing.
Definitely. Show the people the value. They have to see it. They have to see it before they invest. They have to see it before they always.
Yeah, man, I think that's a perfect, even saying you have to see it before they invest. I think that's perfect. Just speaking directly to the audience is, how do you create what you see in yourself so that you know, no matter who you are, you're worth investing into, right? And I don't know, maybe that's using visualization, maybe that's meditation. I don't know what it is for you who's watching, but find that practice that works for you.
Most definitely. It's required. It's so necessary. So necessary.
I want to go back a little bit, and I want you to think about kind of a two-part question here.
Okay.
I want you to think that it's your last day. Like, this is the last day you've got. You are on your deathbed, and you have two people that come and visit you. All right, so the first person that's going to come and visit you is your 5-year-old self.
Oh, wow.
Right? And then it's going to be like, actually, so it won't be two people, but it'll be a conversation between your 5-year-old self and yourself on your last day. So what piece of advice would your 5-year-old self tell you on your last day? And then I want the reverse. What would yourself on your last day tell your 5-year-old self?
That's really good, Nathan. I'm gonna let you know right now. I'm gonna have to borrow that for an engagement. That's really good. Well, my 5-year-old self would tell me to relax. My 5-year-old self would tell me to just enjoy it, like to really enjoy it, because so oftentimes I for one, am somebody who never enjoys the moment because I'm always looking at what has to happen next. Because just being logical or being analytical and just trying to figure it out, map it out, and then follow the plan, and then what's the next plan. So he would tell me to relax. He'd say, John, relax, relax. Just enjoy these last few hours, this final moment, relax. Then I would tell my 5-year-old self, okay, I will relax. But what you can do for me is to always invest in yourself and take more chances, take more risks, live life truly on the edge. Because I think it's so easy to tell somebody why you won't do something, why you can't do something, or how certain things won't be able to be seen or be manifest. But then I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just about faith. So, and in my book of faith in the Bible, it talks about having childlike faith. And in order to have that, you have to be free. In order to have that, you have to have no worries and just get to the place to where you say, it's above me, so let me still go do what I need to do, but let me not worry about the outcome, because the outcome is already taken care of. So that's what I would tell my 5-year-old self after he told my old self to relax. I would tell him, well, I'm going to relax, so I'll be on this end of the spectrum, but you go all after it on this end of the spectrum.
Nice.
So then when you're in my position, then you'll be able to relax also. So yeah.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. I think there are some themes that are coming up in this conversation for sure. Some relaxing and some faith. So I only have a couple more questions. And the first, where can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to jonathanjonespeaks.com, and that's JONATHAN Jones, JONESSPEAKS.com. And then all my social links are down at the bottom. The podcast, it's all on my website. Mm-hmm.
All right, and we'll make sure and drop that in the show notes as well, so you guys can connect. What does Speak Your Success, like if you're telling somebody who's sitting there and saying, I don't even think I'm ready to speak my success, what would you tell them?
Yeah, then that means they're in a great position to actually do it. Because too often we're always waiting for when the time's right. The perfect example is for people who are getting ready to get married. You ask a guy, you know, when are you going to settle down? When is the time right? He says, I'm not ready. But then you might ask a woman or somebody else who might have some other shape of partner. The other person was like, I was ready 5 years ago, but I was waiting on you. And I think too often we put limits and we put boundaries just on our lives on what could be done here, what should be done here. Get married, figure out the rest later. Of course, there's a certain level of work that should go in before. But then when you get married, you're going to evolve. Your partner's going to evolve. As you move forward, you're going to evolve together. But if you're putting off the timeline and this person was ready, they might end up leaving because they were waiting for you. So to answer your question, do it. Like, do it. What the worst thing that can happen is you can be terrible, or you can realize that you're not that bad and your message resonates with somebody.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Just do it.
Just do
don't take away from the podcast here, but just do it.
Yeah. Just do it. That's it.
That's awesome, man. And the final question I've got for you is, what does no label defines me mean to you?
I actually did a video, well, it was a presentation. And then I called gentlemen up, and I had different labels and name tags from different summer camps I did.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote dum-dum, I wrote stupid, I wrote all these different things. And then the gentleman's name was Cliff. I said, his name is Cliff, correct? And he said, yes. And I said, just because he has on these labels, does that change his name? Everybody said, no. So no label defines me ultimately just means the fact that people are gonna say what they're gonna say. People are gonna put their labels on you. Just the same as when you go to Walmart, they're rolling back prices, they put sales tags on stuff. That doesn't affect the quality of the way the product or the person was originally made. So therefore, we just have to trust in the value and the God-given purpose that we have on our own individual lives, and not allow somebody else to define us based on their skewed vision or just the type of lens that they're looking through. So that's what I would say no label defines me really means, because too often we give people too much stock into our business that they never invested anything in. So we have to cancel that out.
Yeah, that's a powerful definition there. And that's, I often think about, like you said, the prices. That was the whole purpose behind that, is that you can just, a label, you can easily peel it away and rewrite something new. Because labels do define us no matter what, but we have the power to choose which ones we use. So, dude, I appreciate you coming on, and I know that the audience is going to enjoy this message here today. So if you got anything from Jonathan's message, if you're ready to speak your success, if you know somebody who needs to see this, make sure and share it with your followers, with your friends and your family, because the only way that this grows is through the community, getting it out there. And, you needed to hear this. Somebody out here needed to hear this today. And so make sure that that person gets access to it. With that said, remember that you're up to big things. And when you're up to big things, you must be patient, you must be diligent, and you must never, never quit. And you can catch us again next Friday for another episode of No Label Live. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of No Label Live. If you know a friend who can use this message and find value in it, make sure and share it with them today. Also, go ahead and tag me and let me know what you thought of the episode. If you want to become a bigger part of the No Label Defines Me family, go ahead and connect over at YouTube and Instagram at _Nathan_Todd. And share this message with a friend today. Let them know that they are more than a label. They matter, and they're one step away from their success. And remember, you're up to big things. And when you're up to big things, you must be patient, you must be diligent, and you must never, never quit. No label should ever define you. Your label should always empower you. And we'll catch you again next week.